If you were to Google the word vertigo, you would find definitions describing a physical sensation, symptoms of which include the feeling that the world around you is spinning. Alfred Hitchcock's 1958 film of the same name gives its audience that same feeling of dizziness and confusion, but in a wildly fascinating and thrilling way. The film follows retired detective John Scotty Ferguson, who suffers from a fear of heights, as he is hired by an old friend to investigate the perplexing paranormal activity of his wife, Madeline. As the investigation grows, so does Scotty's obsession with Madeline, and it is this obsession that leads to the eventual demise of his state of mind and concept of reality versus fantasy. It features James Stewart and Kim Novak as the starring roles, who both do an excellent job of conveying the star-crossed lovers of sorts. Stewart abandons the usual likable persona that he is used to playing to throw himself into the role of the perverse and depressed detective. He is really able to show his vulnerability, and it shows audiences his range and ability to portray vastly different types of characters, a sign of a truly brilliant actor. As an actress who had the difficult job of displaying a character with something deeper going on, Novak handles this beautifully. Audiences were able to see the subtle pain and hurt behind her laughs and smiles as she desperately vies for Scotty's love of both Madeline and Judy. The chemistry between the two is both frightening and impressive. The script itself is full of symbolism about the deeper meaning behind the film. The first two acts, though filled with slow, investigative scenes, elaborately spin a false narrative that entraps Scotty and the audience into a sense of security and delusion. In fact, any filmgoer could deduce from the two acts that Vertigo is a supernatural mystery about ghost possession. The third act, however, takes a turn that almost no one could see coming and leaves audiences spellbound and even slightly uncomfortable, as it introduces the idea of something scarier than demonic possession, a male need for possession. Yes, this film takes on the theme of the male gaze, and although Scotty suffers from a fear of heights, he has no problem perching at the very top of the patriarchal hierarchy, a place from which he can view his female counterpart as simply a sexual object. The concept of the male gaze permeated many of the films of the 1960s, but in Vertigo we see this concept pushed to its limits, as Scotty becomes obsessed with the exact appearance of his true love, therefore foregoing her thoughts and feelings. This film was a pioneer in many directorial effects, including the dolly zoom, which accurately emulated the feeling of vertigo Scotty experiences throughout the film. It was actually deemed the vertigo effect because of this film and has been used in future films like Jaws, Goodfellas, and Poltergeist. Hitchcock also visibly foreshadows Scotty's fate through his camera movement, often panning up to show the audience the bell towers in the background. Perhaps one of the most interesting devices Hitchcock employs is the use of color. He specifically plays with the two complementary colors, red and green, to represent reality and fantasy respectively. We see these colors displayed in costuming, scene composition, and set, and it makes it very clear that Scotty is trapped in a fantasy, or in this case, a world of green. As Madeline and Scotty kiss in a circling camera to the fantastical soundtrack of composer Bernard Herrmann, we see that there is no escaping for Scotty. These and many other directorial techniques are what made Hitchcock a true auteur. He was the primary creative force in all of his films, developing his own distinguishable creative style and putting so much thought into creating a flawless project. So much so that many of Scotty's obsessions and compulsions in this film are said to mirror Hitchcock's same actions while directing, and Vertigo is considered to be his most personal film. It's clear that Vertigo is a truly chilling film that leaves audiences feeling excitingly bewildered as they ponder their own senses of fantasy and delusion. At the movies, this is Jayla Creekmer.